Lillian sat at the kitchen counter, her eyes locked on the bank statement in her trembling hands. Line after line of transfers, each marked with the same name, Hopeful Hearts Foundation. At first glance, it looked like a charitable donation, but Lillian wasn't fooled. She was a financial analyst. And someone else. For 10 years, she had believed in him. Believed in the late nights, the long business trips, the vague answers. She told herself he was building their future. But now, staring at these numbers, she knew the truth. Michael strolled into the kitchen, whistling like nothing was wrong. She calmly tucked the paper beneath a grocery flyer and smiled at him. "Everything okay?" he asked. "Perfect," she replied. He had no idea. The trap was already set. And this time, Lillian was the one holding the wire. Lillian was 39 years old, a financial analyst by trade, and a natural planner by personality. She had always been meticulous, steady, the kind of woman who color-coded her budget spreadsheets and kept a backup copy of every important document. Numbers made sense to her. They told the truth, even when people didn't. But love had made her second-guess everything she knew. She met Michael when she was 25. He was magnetic from the start, charming, confident, full of big ideas and bold plans. He wasn't like anyone she'd ever known. Where she was cautious, he was fearless. Where she saw risks, he saw opportunity. They got married quickly in a stupid person in the room. But Lillian was swept up in the fantasy. Michael made her feel like the most important person in the room. He made her laugh. He made her believe in a future that sparkled with potential. In the early years, they were a team. Michael had a startup idea, and Lillian, ever the loyal partner, put her career on pause to help him launch it. She handled the logistics, the finances, the planning, everything behind the scenes. Michael, with his effortless charm, dazzled investors and networked his way into boardrooms. When it worked, it felt like magic. They celebrated every milestone, every funding round, every client win with takeout dinners and whispered dreams of buying a beach house someday. But slowly, things began to shift. Michael's business trips became more frequent. He stopped involving Lillian in the decision-making. It brushed off her questions with vague answers. "It's just business stuff, nothing you need to worry about." He stopped asking for her input, even when she offered it. Instead of working together, it started to feel like she was simply keeping the house running while he chased success. Then came the phone calls. Always late at night, always taken in the garage. He said it was for better reception. Lillian wanted to believe that. She told herself she was being paranoid, that Michael worked hard and deserved her trust. But the pit in her stomach wouldn't go away. When she noticed unfamiliar charges on their joint account, hotel stays in cities Michael never mentioned, expensive dinners on nights he said he was working late, she brought it up gently. Maybe there was a mix-up. Maybe the card had been cloned. Michael laughed, told her she was overanalyzing everything, just like always. Said she was letting her imagination get the best of her. "You used to trust me," he said with that disarming smile. "What happened to that?" And just like that, the conversation ended. Lillian dropped. She started watching more closely, memorizing his patterns, tracking the dates of his trips, the timing of his calls. She noticed how he never left his laptop unattended anymore, how he changed the passwords to their joint email accounts. He said it was for security. She pretended to believe him. But the turning point came 2 months ago, when she suggested they sit down for a financial review. Just like old times, she said, a chance to plan for their future. Michael rolled his eyes, told her she was being ridiculous, that he had everything under control. "You don't need to stress over the numbers, Lillian. That's my job now. Just relax." Relax. It was the last straw. Lillian didn't say anything in the moment, but she started digging, quietly, carefully. She accessed old statements, cross-record spending, noted patterns. That's when she found it. The transfers to Hopeful Hearts Foundation. Regular, consistent, and large. And every dollar came from their joint savings. Her hands trembled when she realized the account wasn't real. Michael wasn't just hiding something. He was hiding someone. Lillian sat in her home office, the screen glowing in the dark. Her fingers trembled slightly as she scrolled through the bank transactions. Hopeful Hearts Foundation appeared again and again. $3,200, 0 cents. $4,750, 0 cents. $5,600, 0 cents. Each transfer just a few weeks apart. She clicked on one, then another. The money was pulled directly from their joint savings account, the one they had promised not to touch except for emergencies. She opened a new tab and typed in the name. Nothing. No website, no contact information, no tax identification number, no listing in any nonprofit registry. Lillian's heart pounded. Her analytical mind ran through possibilities. Fake foundation, money laundering, or something even worse. She pulled out her notebook and began cross-referencing the transfer dates with Michael's calendar. His so-called business trips. Every time money went to Hopeful Hearts, he had been out of town. Phoenix, Denver, San Diego. She checked the credit card statements, hotel charges, dinner at expensive restaurants, spa services. He'd paid for a couple's massage at the Fairmont in Scottsdale. One name appeared on a receipt. Rebecca Lang. That name jolted something loose. Rebecca, the woman with sleek blonde hair and perfect teeth. Lillian had met her once, 2 years ago, at a networking dinner Michael had dragged her to. She was introduced as just a colleague, someone from a partner firm. Lillian remembered feeling awkward, sensing something strange in the way Rebecca looked at Michael. At the time, she brushed it off. Rebecca was polite, charming, now that she thought about it. She searched public records and traced the shipping address for a $2,800 0 cents diamond necklace Michael had purchased just last month. It wasn't sent to their home. It wasn't even sent to his office. It went to an apartment on Wilcox Avenue in Pasadena. She found the name on the mailbox. R. Lang. Lillian's stomach turned. She stared at the address on her screen for a long time. Every alarm bell she'd ever ignored now rang in deafening clarity. The necklace, the money, the secret foundation, the trips, the lies. This wasn't suspicion. It wasn't anxiety. It was betrayal, cold and calculated. She reached for her tea, hands steady now, heart strangely calm. The evidence was there, undeniable and neatly catalogued. The years of doubt, the gaslighting, the silences, it all led here. She had trusted Michael with her life, her career, her love, and he had funneled it all into a lie with a charity name that mocked her intelligence. The name echoed in her mind. In Hopeful Hearts. Lillian almost laughed. The irony was cruel. Her heart had been hopeful. Too hopeful. She closed the tab, backed up the files, and began printing every receipt, every transfer, every fake foundation detail. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She prepared. Lillian stared at the receipts, the spreadsheets, the timeline of betrayal mapped out like a case study. But she didn't want revenge. Not yet. She wanted clarity, and she wanted to be smart. She picked up her phone and called the one person who always grounded her, Amanda. Amanda answered on the second ring. "Hey, everything okay?" Lillian said softly. "I found out Michael's been embezzling from our account. He's been funneling money into a fake charity and spending it on another woman." Silence. Then Amanda's voice sharpened. "What? Lillian, are you serious? You can't just sit on this." "I'm not," Lillian replied. "But I can't confront him. He'll lie, twist it, and make me feel crazy again. I need something stronger than words." Amanda didn't hesitate. "Then you fight smart. You've already done the hard part, finding the truth. Now let someone help you build the case." That night, Lillian contacted a private investigator who specialized in financial fraud. Detective Carter, a former forensic accountant with a reputation for being relentless and discreet. She met him the next morning, binder in hand. Carter flipped through her documents, eyebrows rising with each page. "This isn't just suspicious," he said. "It's a textbook case of fraud. If this foundation doesn't exist on paper, and he's using it as a front to fund personal spending, it's criminal. He could face serious charges." Lillian's breath caught, but she stayed composed. "What would we need to prove it?" "One more thing," Carter said. "We need to catch him in the act. A fresh transaction, something recent and traceable. Once we have that, we go to the authorities. You'll have a full legal record, and he won't be able to deny a thing." Lillian nodded slowly. "How do we do that?" "We monitor the account," Carter said. "The pattern shows he makes withdrawals every few weeks. When the next one hits, we track where the money goes in real time. If he transfers it to this fake charity, we follow the money trail directly to its end destination." "And when it gets there?" Lillian asked. "I'll be there first." They put a plan in place. Carter secured the necessary legal documents for financial monitoring. Lillian gave him access to the joint accounts and forwarded all future bank alerts directly to him. Back home, she returned to life as usual. She greeted Michael with a smile, kissed him goodnight, let him believe she was still blind. But every move he made now lived under a microscope. Every lie was time-stamped. And every dollar he stole brought her one step closer to the truth, becoming undeniable. Lillian wasn't waiting for closure. She was preparing for war, with facts, with witnesses, and with silence, sharpened into strategy. Lillian moved through the house like a ghost, present, smiling, responsive, but emotionally detached. Every morning, she brewed coffee and kissed Michael goodbye as he left for his so-called meetings. Every evening, she made dinner while he scrolled through his phone, humming, occasionally flashing her that old charming grin. But behind her composed face was a storm of calculation and heartbreak. She'd already made her move. Quietly, she'd transferred $50,000 from her personal emergency fund into the Hopeful Hearts Foundation account, money she could afford to lose. She flagged the transaction with her bank as suspicious and reported it to Detective Carter. It was bait, and Michael had no idea he was biting. Meanwhile, Carter monitored the account in real time. The moment Michael touched it, they'd have legal cause to subpoena records and trigger a full investigation. But waiting wasn't easy. Every second she spent pretending was a second spent reliving every lie. At night, Lillian lay awake beside him, thinking about the woman she used to be, the girl who fell for his ambition, who believed in building a life together, who turned down a promotion in Chicago so he could grow his company. She remembered the days she worked full-time while running his books at night, and how she stayed quiet whenever he brushed off her concerns. Back then, she thought, that's what loyalty meant. Sacrifice, patience, trust. Now she saw it differently. Michael hadn't built a marriage, he'd built a stage, and she had been the spotlight he used to shine brighter. And this fake charity? It wasn't just financial fraud. It was a betrayal of everything they'd ever claimed to stand for. The grief hit in strange ways, while folding laundry, while deleting old photos, while watching him laugh at something on his phone, knowing he might be texting Rebecca. Grief mixed with rage, and rage with guilt. She asked herself if she'd been naive, if she had ignored signs because it was easier to believe in love than to confront deceit. But beneath the sorrow was a rising strength. She was no longer asking if he loved her. She was asking why she had allowed herself to wait this long, to demand respect. Each time Michael made a flippant comment about money, or how some people wouldn't survive without him, Lillian smiled. She noted it. Every word was evidence. He talked about future investments, about expanding their foundation. He even joked about taking a vacation to Bora Bora, just the two of them. "We deserve it," he said. She nodded. In her journal that night, she wrote, "He thinks he still owns the story. He doesn't." She closed the book, turned off the light, and lay still beside him, the space between them colder than it had ever been. And as Michael drifted to sleep, completely unaware of the storm gathering at his feet, Lillian stared at the ceiling, mourning the girl who believed him and preparing the woman who would end him. The morning of the planned withdrawal arrived like a storm front, quiet, heavy, inevitable. Lillian dressed carefully, pulling on a soft gray sweater and black slacks. No makeup, no perfume, just presence, just purpose. She sipped her coffee while Michael scarfed down toast and talked about a last-minute client meeting that had just popped up. She nodded, kissed his cheek, and waved from the doorway. Then she followed him. Detective Carter had given her clear instructions: stay back, don't intervene, and let the officers handle the arrest. Lillian parked 2 blocks away and walked slowly toward the bank. She saw the unmarked vehicle parked across the street. Carter was inside, speaking into a mic clipped to his jacket, pretending to scroll through their phones. Michael stepped inside the bank at 9:02 a.m., just like the transaction logs predicted. He looked relaxed, smug even. Lillian watched through the glass as he flashed a grin at the young teller and passed her his ID, an account request slip. The teller glanced down at the screen, then froze. Carter had arranged notification that had just appeared. She pressed a button under the counter, just as Carter had arranged. Within seconds, the 2 plainclothes officers entered the bank. One approached the teller as the other moved toward Michael. The shift in atmosphere was almost imperceptible, until it wasn't. "Michael Lawson?" the officer said, loud enough for the few customers in the bank to hear. Michael turned, confused. "Yeah?" "You're under arrest for financial fraud, embezzlement, and wire fraud. Please place your hands where I can see them." It took a full 2 seconds for the words to register. Then, Michael's face contorted in disbelief. "What the hell are you talking about?" "I haven't done anything." But the cuffs were already around his wrists. The officers read him his rights, calmly and clearly, as customers gasped and bank employees stepped back. Michael's voice rose, erratic and angry. "This is a mistake. I run a foundation. It's a non-profit." From outside, Lillian stepped forward and pushed open the glass door. She walked into the bank without hesitation, her footsteps measured and deliberate. Michael saw her instantly. His mouth dropped open. "Lillian, what are you—" She didn't flinch. She pulled a manila envelope from her purse and held it out. Inside, divorce papers, signed, final, with full documentation of his transfers, flagged accounts, and charges prepared by Detective Carter's team. She looked him square in the eye. "Consider this," she said, her voice calm and icy. "My last donation." Michael's expression shattered. "You set me up. You were spying on me." Then she said, softly, "I was protecting what's left of me." The officers escorted him past her. He twisted back toward her as they pulled open the door. "You'll regret this, Lillian. You'll regret—" But the door shut before he could finish. The arrest was clean. No shouting, no struggle, just humiliation. The kind that ripples out through social circles, business contacts, news headlines. Carter stepped up beside her. "Katie," he said with a quiet nod, "was one of the smartest takedowns I've seen. You did what most victims never get the chance or courage to do." Lillian didn't smile. Not yet. But her shoulders relaxed for the first time in weeks. She looked down at her hands. Steady, still. Later that day, the Hopeful Hearts Foundation account was officially frozen. Subpoenas were filed. Charges were moving forward. And the web Michael had spun, so carefully, so errantly, was unraveling by the hour. But Lillian didn't return home to celebrate. She returned home to exhale. She walked through the door of the house she once shared with a man who never truly saw her. She made tea, sat in her chair, and opened her laptop. There was one more file to finalize, her new business registration form. The name? Clear Ledger Consulting. Specializing in forensic finance and protective planning for women, starting over. She hit submit. And with that, her next chapter began. Lillian stood in the doorway of what used to be their shared office. The bookshelves still held business books Michael never read. His jackets were still draped over the chair, untouched for weeks. With one deep breath, she began clearing it out. Every item she boxed felt like lifting a stone off her chest. His cufflinks, his unused planner, the framed Founder of the Year certificate he'd insisted they hang in the living room. It all went into storage, not out of anger, but out of reclamation. Her lawyer, Clara, kept her updated throughout the divorce proceedings. The financial records Lillian had compiled, combined with Michael's arrest, left little room for dispute. Clara assured her that the courts were likely to rule in her favor. Michael had committed fraud, violated trust, and endangered their financial future. Lillian deserved not just a clean break, but restitution. With Clara's help, she closed all joint accounts, rerouted direct deposits, and updated every single password tied to her name. It was tedious, methodical work, but it gave her a sense of control she hadn't felt in years. Next, she turned inward. She pulled out her old sketchbooks, opened her long-abandoned photography portfolio, and reached out to friends she hadn't seen in years. Some friendships reignited with ease, others more cautiously. But in every connection, Lillian found pieces of herself she had forgotten. The woman who used to laugh loudly, who spent spare-damned finances independently, helping women navigate finances after loss. She dusted off that dream. Within weeks, she had 3 new clients. 2 were women referred by Clara, going through divorces of their own. Lillian listened with compassion, offered clear-eyed advice, and set them on paths to financial security. It was more than work. It was restoration. She was turning her pain into purpose. Still, something deeper called. A need to get away from the noise, to sit in the silence, and let it all catch up. So she booked a solo trip to the coast. A small inn with no television, just cliffs, wind, and waves. She packed a journal, a bottle of wine, and her favorite sweatshirt. The second morning there, she walked barefoot along the shoreline at sunrise, salt air clinging to her hair. She found a smooth patch of sand and sat down. No distractions, no timelines, just herself. She pulled out her notebook and began writing a list, not of chores or goals, but of truths. I want peace. I want honesty. I want to wake up excited. I want to never second-guess myself again. The tears came quietly, not out of sadness, but out of relief. She had survived Michael's lies, his fake foundation, his arrogance. But more than that, she had survived years of erasure, years of shrinking herself to fit his world. And now, she was expanding again. She stayed 3 more days, walked new trails, took dozens of photographs, and bought herself a necklace. A simple silver heart with a keyhole. A reminder that no one would ever have the key to her life again, unless they'd earned it. When she returned home, it felt different. Lighter. Real. Not because Michael was gone, but because she was finally home to herself. When Lillian stepped back into the house after her trip, something had shifted. The same walls, the same furniture, the same layout, but it felt different. Lighter. As if the air had been cleared of a heaviness she hadn't fully realized she'd been living under. Every room held the echo of silence, but it was no longer suffocating. It was peaceful. Her peace. She began redecorating immediately. No grand overhauls, just quiet changes. She removed the leather armchair Michael loved, but she'd always found cold and stiff. In its place, she added a plush armchair in soft sage green, perfect for curling up with a book. His prized collection of sports memorabilia came off the shelves and into a storage box. In their place, framed prints of coastal landscapes from her trip. She transformed Michael's old office into a reading nook. shelves lined with novels she never had time to read, a soft rug, a warm lamp, a hanging plant that reached for the sun through windows now finally clean. The space became hers in a way the house never had before. For the first time, every item she saw reflected her, not him. While clearing out the hall closet, Lillian found a cardboard box labeled Early Days. Inside were photo albums, ticket stubs, handwritten notes, mementos from their early years, smiles captured on vacations, sweet notes scribbled on sticky pads. They were real once. That truth didn't disappear just because he had. She sat cross-legged on the floor for a while, flipping through them, and then, quietly, she taped the box shut and wrote, "Closed Pactor," on the top in black marker. She carried it to the attic. Not to forget, but to remember that even love turned bitter had once felt sweet. And more importantly, to remind herself that she had lived through it, and she had emerged. Forgiveness, she realized, wasn't a moment. It was a practice, a choice she would keep making, not for Michael, but for herself. She didn't excuse his actions. She would never forget the lies, the manipulation, the months of gaslighting. But she also refused to let those memories define her. Now, she woke each day not wondering what Michael was hiding, but imagining what she could create. She started journaling again. Morning coffee became a ritual of intention, lighting a candle, setting her phone aside, and checking in with herself. She reconnected with friends, joined a book club, took long walks with no destination. Grief still visited sometimes, but no longer stayed. The betrayal was real. The pain was sharp, but the woman she was becoming, stronger than she'd ever imagined. There was no rush to close the door on healing, but she no longer feared the open space. This home, this life, was hers now. And that truth, unlike everything Michael had ever said, was solid. It didn't need proving. It simply was. Some betrayals wear a mask. Michael wore one for years. He created a fake charity, forged paper trails, whispered half-truths, and smiled like a loving husband while stealing from the woman who built a life with him. He thought Lillian would never question him, never dig deeper, never rise. But he was wrong. Lillian didn't just uncover the truth. She stood firm in it. She didn't scream, didn't fall apart, didn't beg for closure. She moved with intention. She gathered proof, made a plan, and executed it with a calmness that shook the ground beneath his feet. She didn't just catch him. She reclaimed everything he tried to take. Finances, her dignity, her future. This wasn't just a cheating story. It was a story of deception, financial betrayal, emotional manipulation, and the quiet power of a woman who refused to disappear. If you've ever doubted yourself, ignored the red flags, or stayed silent to keep the peace, let Lillian's story be your reminder. You are not crazy, you are not powerless, and you don't owe anyone your silence. Comment below if you've ever been through a betrayal like Lillian's. Share this cheating story with someone who needs strength today. And don't forget to like and subscribe to Veiled Fury, where silence ends, truth rises, and every woman gets her voice back. This is Veiled Fury, where every woman rises,